We can't outrun our sins, guys. So don't even try. You all thought December was just a gimmick, a fluke, a wacky little goof I played on you chuckleheads. But it wasn't. We're going back, and this time there will be no escape. The beast must feed on the blood of our young, and it is time to give it food. Suburban Knights.
Let me ask you something. If the rule you followed brought you to this, of what use was the rule?
Hey, guess what?
What?
Fuck you.
So I mentioned before that this month we'll be looking at the Channel Awesome film trilogy, Kickassia, Suburban Knights, and To Boldly Flee, with something special waiting at the end for you good boys and girls. We're capping the year off with some Doug fucking Walker. If you can't handle it, put your balls back in your pants and fuck off back to Paw Patrol. This is the real shit. The hardcore fucking gangster shit. Kickassia was a mess, put it lightly. It looked like ass, sounded like ass, and a lot of the jokes just aren't funny. But it had a strange level of sincerity behind it. These guys truly thought they were making something special, even if everyone else could see it was stupid. Some people, after all these years, even managed to find appreciation for Kickassia as a so bad it's good movie, viewing the amateur mistakes and astounding lack of self-awareness as its own unique sense of humor. Personally, I think it's just dull and annoying, but there are those that think it's so dumb that it's brilliant in its own way. And it especially helps if you're well acquainted to the shenanigans of Channel Awesome and the behind-the-scenes stuff, since admittedly, it does make certain sequences and plot beats downright comical in a very ironic sense. Actual irony too, and not that latte slurping hipster douche definition. And it's especially ironic when you take the Channel Awesome document into account, the one that was supposed to be a tell-all about the sins of Doug Walker and the rest of the higher-ups, yet became Swiss cheese when mild scrutiny was placed on the thing. There's some stuff that's true, and others that's so exaggerated and stupid that it drags down the claims that actually have merit behind them. In fact, the lies are so extensive that I had a lot of trouble sussing out what claims to even include in this video, since it felt like anytime I dedicated to something, I found something else that was contradicting it, and it's so bad that it outright impacts probably the most infamous of the Channel Awesome stories, Jewario. I mentioned before that the big claims against him were that he groomed underage fans for sex. While it is true that he engaged in some seriously inappropriate behavior with women, the detail that they were underage might actually be one of those cases of twisting details. Yeah, it even impacts something as massive as the Jewario scandal. Now, there were accusations from multiple women about Jewario, one of them actually a super critical story that is almost directly responsible for the document going up in smoke, but the only actual claim that lays out him grooming a fan for sex that is covered in the document in detail is one where he talked a girl into having sex with him at a convention. You see, physically she was 18, but mentally she was 16. Yeah, fuck off with that shit. No, that's stupid.
The following story is from an anonymous contributor we are calling Jane Doe, recounting the story of a former producer who had sexually abused her, and claims that management was aware of said producer's deviancy for a year and did nothing. At least 2 other victims have come forward regarding this person, but whether management knew about them is unknown. The chat is copied verbatim with the victim's permission. In this chat log, it's revealed that the abuse began when the victim was only 18 years of age. She tells how an older man had begun grooming her and convincing her to take her clothes off for him. She reported him saying that he wanted to teach her how to kiss and have sex. He used his influence over her as a creator to manipulate, and she states that Channel Awesome's administration had first been informed of this inappropriate behavior a full year before he was let go from the website, placing her abuse sometime in 2012.
This is why the document fell apart, because none of you idiots could quit while you were ahead and just tell the truth. What the fuck does that even mean? Mentally she was 16? You mean she still felt like a teenager even after hitting 18? Yeah, no shit, everyone feels that way. Just fuck off. This isn't even a defense of Jewario. He legit did some creepy fucking shit, which we will talk about. But they conveniently left out one of the stories that implicates some of the people involved in the document, since it turns out Jewario was an infamous figure at Channel Awesome, with it being a mild open secret what exactly he was up to, but I'll talk about that later. It's just something we're gonna have to cover when it's time. For now, let's get back on track. Another big claim that I brushed past is one that's actually been echoed for a while. Specifically in that I talked about how Lorcat blamed Spoony for the destruction of Blistered Thumbs. In particular, the infamous Betrayal skit at E3, which became a major meme with his channel. So, for context, a long ass ways back, some of the Channel Awesome guys attended E3, Spoony and Angry Joe being two of them since they were really tight and good friends back in the day. That year just so happened to be the one where the reboot to the XCOM franchise was revealed. Not Enemy Unknown, by the way, the one before that. The reboot's so bad they quickly canned the project and workshopped it to be some Mass Effect clone like 6 years later. Well, when Spoony saw the trailer, he wasn't happy.
I saw the footage, and there was one word searing through my mind, like bolts of fire, and that word, betrayal!
What?
Betrayal! Betrayed me! This game sucks! It has nothing to do with XCOM! Nothing! Nothing!
I think this is the birth of Angry Spoony.
Nothing to do with XCOM. Like, the first thing they did, they were like, okay, here's XCOM, it's got aliens, and it's so XCOM, and just like XCOM is set in the 1950s, and I'm like, XCOM is not set in the 1950s.
He screamed betrayal at the top of his lungs in the middle of E3, ranting about how this new game sucks. Now here's the thing, this has followed Spoony for a while, some viewing it as a classic bit that is hilarious, and others thinking he made himself look like a retard when he was supposed to be a representative of his company. And personally, both are right. Spoony was there as a representative of Channel Awesome, and his stunt made his co-workers look like morons to the industry heads that were there. But at the same time, that reveal trailer did suck ass. Once again, the reception to it was so bad that the project was scrapped and remade into XCOM Enemy Unknown. So not only was Spoony not being a contrarian on the matter, he was just saying what everyone else was thinking. If he tried to pretty it up and say the game looked good, his fanbase would have ripped his dick off with their bare hands. He touts himself as a major fan of the XCOM series, and here was a reboot that had nothing to do with the franchise. But pissing off a AAA game studio can have major consequences. You could even get your site completely blacklisted. It's dangerous water to tread, and there really wasn't a right answer. Be too fair to the game? Your fans are pissed. Shit on the game? Industry people are pissed. And this was all when Blistered Thumbs was trying to get off the ground. It's just not a good situation to be in the middle of. Now there is a middle ground option, be more level-headed and take potshots at the game with snide remarks instead of a public freakout. But that's the hindsight version of events, and really, this whole thing blew up to be a lot bigger than it really was over the years. Yeah, Spoony looked like a moron, but it was a funny bit taking the piss out of a game no one was excited for. And it was taken out back and shot anyway. No one really cared. So to punish him specifically and Blistered Thumbs is just retarded, and trying to say it directly killed the site is where you get into full-blown vendetta territory. Did it hurt Blistered Thumbs? Definitely can see where it didn't help, interviews getting denied or insider perks not being given out, but this leans into the issue of the mismanagement I talked about in the Kickassia video. It was already floundering and not being well taken care of, so really, this was just another headache they had to deal with, and some people take their anger out on whatever one figure they hate the most. Lorcat in particular sounds extremely bitter about Spoony's shenanigans, to the point that a lot of people have just taken his words as gospel and ran with the idea that he personally tanked Blistered Thumbs.
I no longer respect Noah Antweiler. I used to respect him because I felt he put a lot of work into his videos. He put a lot of work into getting to where he was. And I thought he was a funny guy. I thought he was original. I thought he was innovative. And I thought he deserved to be where he was. And I no longer see that. The man is possibly the single largest waste of talent I've seen in a very long time. You don't have what it takes to be successful. You don't have what it takes to be popular. You don't have what it takes to make it in the world. And I'm here to tell you, after your lashing out at Twisted Puppet, after your suspension at that guy with the glasses. By the way, I just wanted to mention, getting suspended at that guy with the glasses, you really got to do something stupid. You think you're something, but you're a fucking nobody. You live out there in your fucking desert in the middle of nowhere, proclaiming you're going to be this actor somewhere, and you're too much of a bitch to move out to LA and follow your dreams. You just got to admit to the fact that you're a fucking loser, just like every other internet nerd on the face of the fucking planet. Just like me. You're just as bad as me. You're as big a loser as I am, only I'm a better man than you, because I put my money where my mouth is. But I think it's time the whole world, Spoony, heard just how much of a fucking idiot you truly are. You and that other idiot, Joe. When you were at E3 that one year, and you decided to go up and down the hallways screaming about XCOM's Betrayal, and Joe decided to ask people, can I choke you on camera? Guess what happened, Spoony? Guess what fucking happened? The whole gaming industry turned its back on me. Not you, not Joe, not Blistered Thumbs, me. I went to GDC the following year, Spoony. I went to GDC the following year, and I had a chance to interview Notch, Mojang, Specifications, Minecraft. Had a chance. A fucking chance. He was hot then. That was going to be huge for This Week in Games. That was going to be huge for the stream. It was going to be amazing. And you know what happened? The representative at Mojang caught wind that we were going to interview Notch. And he stepped in. And he said, oh, I've heard of you. You're with that guy with the glasses. You're with Blistered Thumbs. And I tried to tell them, no, I'm not. But he said my name was associated with them. And he heard what you did. Making a fucking jackass of yourself at E3. You fucking moron. So they shot it down. And then word spread at GDC. Oh, I heard about you. You were the guy at E3. They thought I was the guy at E3 making a jackass of everyone. I was there trying to be a legitimate member of the business of the gaming industry, and I've worked my ass off to separate myself from you. Every time. You just don't get it.
Which, frankly, I call bullshit. The idea that this one stunt was enough to tank an interview with Notch sounds like major cope. Especially with the claim that they thought Lorcat was Spoony. I'm sorry, but that sounds so fucking fake. For your story to be true, we'd have to think that Notch was so stupid he didn't background check the person that he was going to be interviewed by, or he just didn't care to. Neither look good on you, man. The problem is that Lorcat is the only one willing to talk about it, and his anger sounds so genuine that it's enough to be convincing to some people. But just because some guy is ranting about how much he hates a guy, it doesn't mean he's always telling the truth. Remember, everyone involved in Channel Awesome had problems with being honest. And yes, you have to look at every single claim with skepticism. You can't take their word for it. You just can't. If you believe the Lorcat chain of events, then this one joke video single-handedly made the gaming industry view online reviewers as big jokes that should never be taken seriously. And Notch himself had Lorcat grabbed by his goons and thrown out on his fat ass instead of getting an interview, damning Blistered Thumbs to disaster. Of course that's not what happened, because A, gaming industry itself is a big joke and cozying up to them always ends in disaster, as we've learned later. B, even at the time, games journalism was met with a collective meh. It wasn't hated like it is now, but the amount of games journalists who had successful followings were very much in the minority. These guys already had followings, so them trying to go legit would ironically be worse for their careers, because those fans they relied on to get ahead would view them as sellouts. Hell, that's exactly what happened to the ones who did go legit and get into the industries they wanted to get into. And C, Lorcat, a single interview was not going to catapult you into the big leagues. That's not how this works. Short-term gain? Possibly, especially considering this was when Minecraft was getting huge, but it's still short-term gain. One interview with Notch is not a career-defining move. He was giving interviews to all sorts of places at the time. What would have made you any different from the other fat nerds trying to get their foot in the door? Because the only thing shown is a major vindictive streak. Blaming somebody else for your career dying is kinda pathetic. And you wanna know how I know all this? People remember Spoony, for better or worse. They don't fucking remember you, dude. Maybe you were just boring. Alright, so let's actually get back to the point of the video. It's been almost 10 minutes now, we haven't even gotten fucking close to talking about Suburban Knights. Yeah, that's right, you weren't getting out of this. You still have to sit through the movies themselves. Haha, you fucking losers. Who am I to judge? I've already watched through these things more than once. The second Channel Awesome movie, Suburban Knights, came out a year after Kickassia, in 2011, since the idea behind the trilogy is that they were anniversary events to celebrate each year of Channel Awesome. The production is basically the exact same, except the cast itself has made some changes. Certain actors don't return either due to not being involved in Channel Awesome anymore or just not being available, and you get new actors for appearances, such as Todd in the Shadows, who reviews music, and Luca Macri, who's now legally Kidney Macri, the kid from one of the actors from Whose Line's It Anyway, Colin. I shit you not. Yeah, it's weird to think the kid of a legitimately funny dude would show up in something like Suburban Knights, but it's not the first time a fan got a cameo in a Doug Walker thing, not even a well-known one. The Wall review? the one that everyone hates, that had Corey Taylor from Slipknot and his son in it, because his kid was a big fan of Doug, and he wanted to be in one of his videos. Regardless of your opinion on Doug Walker or Slipknot, let's all admit that new album's kinda mid. Come on, guys. That's a nice gesture. Not even gonna lie. The story of Suburban Knights goes as follows. It takes place about a year after the events of Kickassia, and the nostalgia critic has a new idea for a grand scheme to rope all of his friends into. This time, he wants to track down an ancient gauntlet known as Malachite's Hand, said to have mystical powers, and guarantee the finder's ultimate riches. The legend comes from the disappearance of a man in the 80s who was a massive Dungeons and Dragons nerd. He became obsessed with the gauntlet and apparently found it, then deciding to hide the artifact by creating an elaborate LARP game full of riddles and traps shortly before vanishing off the face of the earth. Nostalgia Critic doesn't actually believe in the magic aspect, but does know it's a very valuable artifact that could mean serious money, so he convinces his fellow reviewers to don elaborate costumes and go out on a quest for the gauntlet, all the while being hunted by a mysterious man who kills anyone who gets in his way. So right out the get-go, you might have noticed that there's an actual story now. Yeah, Suburban Knights actually tries to tell a story instead of just being nonsense. I mean, it's still just a bunch of nonsense, but at least there's more of a structure to this one. There's an attempt at a mystery to be solved, and it tries to bump up the scale to be a lot bigger than Kickassia, with the exact same budget, however. Kickassia made multiple jokes at the fact that nobody really cares about the larger scheme of things. It was all Nostalgia Critic being a douche, and people are working to screw him over after he goes mad with power. Suburban Knights has a similar setup to the point that a lot of the same jokes are repeated, but this actually does try to have a sense of tension behind it. The beginning of the film is a cold open where you have the mysterious stranger hitchhiking along the road before being picked up by the village stoner. The stranger gives multiple hints of being angry at the existence of technology, and the whole sequence builds up to him murdering the stoner and destroying his car. It sets up his villain, shows that he's going to be the main antagonist. I mean, not very well. In fact, I'll explain this dude's whole deal in a while, but yeah. This does try to be more of a movie than Kickassia. Once again, it's not very good. A lot of the same mistakes from Kickassia are there. Bits that go on too long, in-jokes that make zero sense to outsiders, fucking god-awful camera work, and a cast that's just too big for the story they want to tell. But there's another issue that creeps up in this film and sets the stage for why To Boldly Flee is so ass. The first act establishes the quest that the critics need to go on, follow the map to track down the gauntlet, and they can make bank off selling it. But Critic says the only way to solve the riddles is to dress in costumes and act as their characters, because it gets them in the quest-solving logic. It makes no sense, and it's literally just there for pop culture references. Remember when I said Kickassia had references but kept it to at least a manageable degree? Suburban Knights dips into making a lot of pop culture references. If you don't know the character these people are playing, a lot of the humor flies over your head, which is a major problem. Especially since not only do you have to know the movie, you also have to know the joke they made about the movie itself. Trust me, it's still not as bad as what's to come. To Boldly Flee is gonna be the painful one. But there's actually a take about Suburban Knights that's gonna sound crazy to you guys. I think it's unironically the funniest of the whole trilogy. Notice how I said it's worse than Kickassia, but somehow funnier. It sounds contradictory, right? Well, the reason for this is because some of the jokes on their own, completely separated from the context of Channel Awesome and as their own thing, can legitimately be funny. The one-liners that just act as their own deal and don't go on for years on end actually have moments.
Right. Phaelus, inspire us. Say something stoic. I wanna die! Perfect.
The running jokes are still a major problem, along with the production still looking cheaper than a high school film project, but it's the only one of these movies that's actually gotten a chuckle out of me, and some of the more shocker jokes actually kinda work, such as Doug Walker flashing his balls to the camera.
What are you talking about?
No! You were right! Oh no! Yeah, you see Walker balls. And it's one of the funnier parts of the movie. He went for it and it kinda worked, I'm sorry. Now I mentioned before that you still have the problem with running jokes that eat major donkey dick, and that's only escalated here. There are some running bits that just aren't funny. Two of them in particular especially got on my nerves. The first one involves Lindsay Ellis dressed up as Arwen from Lord of the Rings. Her entire bit is that she tries to use elven magic to enchant people when all she really does is bumble like a moron and spout out gibberish. It's literally just whatever shit comes to her mind. But these jokes go on for so long that they really outstay their welcome. Doing it once for the bit, embarrassing, but it makes sense with what the movie already establishes. They're trying to act like they're characters, but they do it over and over and over again, to the point that it's exhausting. And it's not even like you can blame Ellis for it, she's trying to make it funny, it's just not coming together right, because the bit really doesn't stretch beyond being a reference to Lord of the Rings that only really works once. The other bit that really drove me insane was the whole thing with Mars Girl, who is an anime channel. Don't worry about her, she's a nobody. She tried to cancel Vic Mignogna back in the day and was part of that whole crowd, so just know she's fucking crazy. Well, she decides to go as San from Princess Mononoke, and her entire bit is that she speaks Japanese. That's it. She only speaks in Japanese for the rest of the movie. It's not funny. And it lasts the whole goddamn movie. There's other running jokes that simply aren't that good, but these two were the ones that flat out pissed me off and sucked the hardest. Angry Joe's whole thing where he kept butchering the Inigo Montoya line, it wasn't amazing, and it definitely stretched on way too much, but that actually had some moments where I thought, okay, that was pretty good.
Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my hamster. Father. That's not even a person!
It helps that you can tell that Joe is unironically having fun and putting energy into what he's doing. Now, the middle of the movie focuses on the critics trying to solve the riddles on the map, splitting off into two separate teams to cover more ground, and this is still a pretty large ensemble, so there's actually a bit more of a variety in the personalities. Everyone has the chance to say something or make a joke, compared to Kickassia where a lot of them had maybe one sentence or didn't even speak, period. The actual riddles themselves are not meant to be challenging, and they're all set up for bits and jokes. It's a very Monty Python and the Holy Grail style vibe to it. One of the segments is almost a direct reference to the Killer Rabbit scene, though nowhere near as glorious as that one.
Yeah, whatever. Conan, go cut his balls off.
Right. Oh, we crushed the pussy.
I warn you, I am a demon of another realm.
Die, timid beast.
Go on, boys, chop his head off. Right, silly little bleeder. One rabbit suit coming right up. Look! Jesus Christ!
As they travel through their quest, they discover more about the history of the gauntlet, discover the shadowy figures fighting to keep them away from it at all costs, and are tracked by the mysterious stranger the whole time. To its credit, all of these elements do get explained. In fact, Suburban Knights probably has the most thought out story in the whole trilogy. They actually took the time to sit down and think out a lore in a world, simple as it may be. There's at least something here, a bad guy to defeat. Hell, if you took out the Channel Awesome elements, this could probably work as its own thing. A bunch of D&D LARPers accidentally stumble into a real quest with magic and wizards. It'd be sort of like Kingdom of Badassdom, but less horror-focused, which is saying a lot because that movie was cut to pieces in the editing room. Still, the basic premise itself, while stupid, could work for a low-budget comedy. Let's workshop things a bit to be an elevator pitch. Okay, a local D&D group accidentally stumbles into a real quest after the leader tricks them all into looking for an ancient gauntlet for a chance at riches, hunted by an ancient evil wizard hoping to reap vengeance on humanity by stealing the gauntlet for himself. As a cheap little indie comedy, there are worse ideas. I could unironically see the Daniels working on a movie like this. So to their credit, they actually improved the story from above Kickassia's level. It's still bad, but at least there's a line to follow. And what I mean is like, holy shit, it is a live-action cartoon, in the worst possible ways. I'll explain more about it in the To Boldly Flee video because that's where it stops being fun or charming in any way, and full-blown starts getting genuinely infuriating. Regardless, at least with Suburban Knights, there is a line to follow. Now, before you guys start thinking that I'm gonna buy a Suburban Knights t-shirt or the Blu-ray, let's talk about what sucks ass again. For one, there's a certain somebody I promised to bring up earlier in the video. So Jewario's character in the movie is David Bowie from Labyrinth, and one of the running jokes is the infamous Bowie bulge. Yeah, if you ever wanted to see David Bowie's dick, watch Labyrinth, cause that bulge is loud and proud every time he's on screen. And Jewario is flaunting the kielbasa. It's not his only joke, to his credit. In fact, I think it only really comes up once, but actually makes what I'm about to say pretty ironic. I mentioned that there's debate over whether or not Jewario actually acted inappropriately to anybody underaged, since the only example provided in the document is the physically 18, mentally 16 story. While there were multiple accusations made against him, the document never really talks about that. And there's a reason for that. The document conveniently leaves out who the sex pest of Channel Awesome actually was. They simply mention he was there and shielded by the higher-ups. That's weird, right? You'd think they'd want to name and shame the guy, especially since this was balls deep in the Me Too times. They're already accusing Mike Machado of being the devil and trying to kick up an angry mob about Doug Walker and Channel Awesome. Why the sudden weird respect for privacy? Well, it's due to some of the other claims in the document. in particular coming from guys like Dr. Gonzo. Gonzo claimed that Mike Michaud refused to let him make a memorial video for Jewario after his suicide because he wasn't popular enough, going so far as screaming "because nobody knows who you are" in his face to humiliate him. Sounds bad, right?
Justin Carmichael, aka Jewario, is one of the content creators of the site who sadly committed suicide. When Dr. Gonzo brought up an idea of Mike to make some form of a tribute to him when not everyone else is making it, here's what Mike Michaud told him. "Nobody knows who you are. They won't care about anything that you're gonna put together. We're gonna have Doug or Lewis or someone put something together. Someone people actually come here to see."
Well, here's the thing. It's debated if that story even happened, since a friend of the Change the Channel crowd, yeah, it turned into a whole crowd, by the name of Cinematic Venom, says he got an email from an insider that says that story was completely made up.
And I also find it funny that these people are the ones who claim that other people are lying, but in their own Google document they had some stories from Dr. Gonzo, which weren't entirely true. Jewario Memorial episode being prevented from happening. Total fiction. This is something he made up at some point. Gonzo used this as an excuse to try to convince us that leaving the site was a good idea. Once we left and the idea of a memorial show was again brought up, he simply said he had zero interest in doing it. So everybody else is lying, but you literally put something in a Google document without actually researching whether or not it was true. And that was someone who worked with Gonzo. I guess this is someone else who's lying, right, guys?
And 2. The exact same document where they want to scold Channel Awesome for protecting Jewario, they're angry that they couldn't mourn him in a video. It sounds a tad contradictory, because it's not like they made it clear in the document they didn't know. In fact, they go out of their way to say they want to call him out, but were scared of fan backlash. Fan backlash, right. And once again, it's not like they weren't sure of who the pest was or anything like that. You know, trying to make sure not to lob accusations before you have the full story. No, Dan Olsen. Yes, the same Dan Olsen who totally didn't upload child porn to 8chan to then write a hit piece about child porn on 8chan, outright admitted he knew Jewario was assaulting women. But because he didn't want Gamergate to get a victory, he stayed quiet. Yes, that is literally what happened. In fact, let's stop beating around the bush here. Jewario's big claim to fame is supposedly sexually assaulting a woman known as Screaming Mantis at a convention one year, who was actually the wife of Brad Jones. Story goes that she got blackout drunk with her friends and Jewario offered or was told to take her back to her hotel room. It's unclear if he was put up to it or suggested the idea himself. After that, he supposedly assaulted her and left. I have to use qualifying terms because none of this was ever taken to law enforcement, meaning nothing was properly handled. This is the big reason you take your accusations to the police, you fucking fools. At the very least, make things official. Still, the higher-ups were made aware of the incident and Jewario was fired sometime later. The document claims that the higher-ups were aware Jewario was a predator for over a year before taking any action. Now, I know you might be asking, well, why did it take so long for that to be handled? That's kind of fucked up. That's the thing, it didn't. Jewario was fired and Channel Awesome downright hired an attorney a mere 3 weeks after the Screaming Mantis incident. The story about them protecting him for over a year is fake. Or hints at something else. In fact, Channel Awesome themselves were the ones who outed Jewario as a sex pest, either intentionally or unintentionally. When they were responding to the document, they showed chat logs to debunk certain claims, and they didn't properly Photoshop out Jewario's name, even revealing the timeline of when the potential sex pest was fired, which matched up perfectly with when Jewario left the site. Down to the day. It's still not great since it's a potential major felony that needed to be reported to the cops, but that's apparently what happened and how it was all handled. They were told not to take it to the police due to an anonymous tip, so the most they could do was call a lawyer and just fucking see what happens. But there's another reason why it took so long for it all to be handled. Someone was playing defense for Jewario, according to rumor. Someone who is intimately involved in the Channel Awesome document. You might remember a woman named Holly, one of the assistants to the Walker brothers, who detailed stories about long work hours, saying she never took a day off and had to work through holidays multiple years in a row, even claiming they forced her to work right after her surgery to the point it almost caused a medical emergency.
So remember how you have only Rob to air your complaints if you're a content creator for the site? Well, the former HR Holly Brown was overworked to a rather insane degree. She worked pretty much all the time. Weekends, holidays, vacations, days when she had surgery, everything. She is so much of a workaholic, her own family is surprised when she doesn't bring her computer. Apparently, only 2 people know how to update the site, Holly and Michaud. To add insult to injury, when she ignores her doctor's appointment to attend the studio, she is instantly told that she is no longer employed. Yep, she is told that she is fired. She canceled her doctor's appointment, potentially putting her life at risk, only to be told that she was fired.
Now this falls into that classic territory of details were shifted. since, once again, in the Channel Awesome response, they show chat logs where Doug and Rob were outright telling her she didn't have to work after her surgery. So right out the get-go, you can see this woman already has a history of not being completely truthful. Holly was a big figure in covering up Jewario's escapades, to the point that she apparently tried to frame Lorcat as the sex pest in Channel Awesome.
I'm here, so hi.
What's up, Mantis? Mantis was the chick I refer to as the chick whose breast I grabbed, because I try not to refer to her as Screaming Mantis, because God knows how many people are gonna fucking attack her. It will eventually.
Well, of course it will eventually, but I mean, look what happened through the whole fucking Magfest shit. Like, I'm not even gonna fucking be, like, kind about it. That shit was fucking terrible. Like, I'm not talking about the radio thing. I'm talking about all of it. Like, and not my friends or anything, but, like, I went there, and you know what pissed me off the most is that there was somebody, and it's this fucking fangirl from fucking Reviewtopia, I think. I don't know who it is. It's just this fucking, what I've heard from everybody else is psycho.
So,
fucking...
all right. So for the record, so I have this recorded on audio, and just for the record, I just want to know: do you hate me or blame me in any way, shape, or form for what happened, or do you regret any way, shape, or form what happened that night?
No, absolutely not.
There
I
you
don't
go.
blame you. I don't blame you for jack shit. Any of you, and I never did. And the people who said anything about it that I did is full of shit.
Well, yeah, now we got a recording we can point to. So anytime anyone brings it up, you just point them to this show, and that's it. There you go.
And in the Screaming Mantis story, it's implied she's done it more than once, outright saying not again when she went to the room and found a Vulplex plushie that Jewario supposedly left behind.
And I'm here to tell you what I know. Now, a lot of what I know is been told to me by the victim, or at least one of them. I don't know about. I've also heard accusations that Justin Carmichael was like grooming underage girls. I have no idea if any of that's true. I don't know anything about that. All I know is this. And it centers around MagFest of 2013. And you'll notice that the time date stamp of this event, as you know, from the chat logs of Chill Awesome, correspond to just the week after this MagFest. This MagFest is also the last time I ever saw Justin Carmichael alive. Apparently on the Saturday night of this MagFest, this person I know is going to remain anonymous, got way too drunk, as she kind of did during that period of time. She was already having a bad time, and she runs into Jewario. And at first, things are kind of okay, and then he apparently starts getting a little pushy. But it's not, it hasn't crossed the line yet. It's just one of those, okay, he's obviously drunk too. Maybe he's not like getting the hint. Okay, so she gets into her room. She walks to the door. Immediately fucking just trips over a table, passes out on the floor. Now here's where it gets graphic. So strap in. So she wakes up and she realizes that someone is naked next to her. And this is her tale of events. Someone naked next to her, and they have their fingers in her vagina. Earlier during the convention, Justin Carmichael had a Vulpix. Holly meets with this person because this person trusted her, and she comes into the room, sees the stuffed animal, and goes, "Where did that come from?" And this is before she even, I told her what had happened, and she's like, oh, that was Justin's. To which Holly apparently, allegedly says, oh no, not again. I don't know if that's true, but the Vulpix plushie, I remember that. I remember that thing. He was walking around with it the entire MagFest.
Ignoring mental health? Check. Allowing abusive behavior? Check. Defending and hiding a sexual predator? Check. Yes, Holly knew about Justin the entire time as well. Hey, Kaylin, what was it you said? Or maybe I would have done the same thing more than 5 years ago if somebody had told me about Justin then. And what did you say, Allison? And then, I found out he knew about a sexual predator in the company and made a monetized video memorializing him after his death. But Holly knew. Why are you friends with someone who covered up for a sexual predator? The group chat that exposed this whole thing, Holly is right there during the entire conversation. She claims that she didn't say anything at the request of the victim. Now that's fair enough, but why doesn't Channel Awesome get that excuse? How come you can stay quiet for the victim, but when it comes to them, no, they covered it up? Or was the issue just because they did the tribute video? That I would understand, but it's never been made clear. You still allowed Justin to hang around with your friends knowing he was a rapist. You still allowed Kaylin to spend hundreds of dollars on a movie honoring his memory. How can you crap on Doug for intentionally paying tribute to a sexual predator when you intentionally didn't stop Kaylin unintentionally doing the exact same thing? You watched and said nothing, endangering all of them. In fact, that makes you more guilty because you were actually Kaylin's friend.
How much of this is true? I have no fucking clue. We are in the apex of bullshit. Everything is a lie and God thinks you're a nerd. But holy shit, the Vulpix plushie thing, I really want that to be true. It is agreed upon that Holly was the one trying to protect Justin, if you go with the idea that these people are all liars, since Lorcat was framed as being a rapist and fired from the site, with her being a big pusher of the accusations. And this brings up the point I mentioned before, the 1816 one. They decided to include that story, which was of an 18-year-old woman willingly having sex with a man she didn't realize was married, and later regretted it. So they cooked up the mentally 16 detail to make it sound worse than buyer's remorse. Because once you're 18, you're fucked. There's nothing you can do. It's over. You chose to do it, so live with the consequences. They went with that story instead of Screaming Mantis, which is downright more disturbing and could have had more impact. But they couldn't do that because the latter story could possibly implicate Holly, one of the big contributors to the awesome document. To pretend this was about protecting victims doesn't work either, since they already talked about Jewario being a living hentai squid to underage girls, and talked about one of his incidents without revealing any personal details. They simply didn't talk about this story because they didn't want to admit one of the contributors to the document made a major fuck-up. Also, they wanted to add more stories about Mike Mashad being a two-dimensional villain for emotional manipulation. If you guys think this is all convoluted and confusing, how the fuck do you think I feel? Point is, Jewario was a sex pest, but possibly not a pedophile, and he was possibly protected by Holly until the Walker brothers found out what he was doing and fired him along with her sometime later. My head hurts. Let's get back to the movie. The finale of the film has the critics discover the truth behind the gauntlet, with one team discovering an ancient voice that has existed longer than time itself, and the others run into a guardian who lays it all out to them after betraying his order. It's another cameo, the guy used to work for the site, and the ancient voice is James Rolfe, again, by the way. He's the best part of the movie.
Are you the voice of the ancient world?
Yeah, what about it?
You don't sound very ancient.
And you sound like an ass, so what's it to you? Yeah, your mother was a bitch and your father was a bull. I guess it makes you a bullshitsu.
So here's what's going on. Back in ancient times, the main villain Malachite was a trusted advisor along with an alchemist in a kingdom. Despite their disagreements over what was best, magic versus technology, they still managed to be friends, until the king wanted to dedicate to a single road. The alchemist was afraid of Malachite gaining power, sensing evil inside of him, and he made a deal with the king behind his back. Malachite, in his rage, forged the gauntlet to elevate his power and make him an immortal being. He then battled the alchemist but was defeated, the alchemist himself forging a ring that is just as powerful as Malachite's gauntlet, but he spared the wizard as a courtesy, and the gauntlet and the ring were both lost to time. Ever since, Malachite has been searching for his lost relic, hoping to regain his power and conquer humanity, destroying all science and technology, and dragging mankind back into an age of magic. So basically he's Ted Kaczynski mixed with Gandalf. There's another detail with this guy that might drive some of you crazy. He's trying really hard to be like Anton Chigurh. No, I'm not kidding. There's multiple scenes where he rambles on in the same way that Anton would in the film, even having a catchphrase when he's about to kill somebody. It's intentionally trying to be reminiscent to the "what's the most you ever lost to a coin toss?"
Dude, did I say something wrong or?
What do you think of the 21st century, Mr. Bill? Bill. What do you think of the 21st century, Bill?
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss? Sir? The most you ever lost on a coin toss.
And if you still have doubts, Doug himself admitted that Javier Bardem's portrayal is one of his favorite performances, so when he's trying to be menacing, it's not really a bit, it's them trying to make an Anton Chigurh-style character. It would be a stretch to call it a full-blown parody or reference, more that they want to make a character that's similar to how Anton is portrayed in No Country for Old Men. Of course, they do add comedy to the scene, so any unintentional hilarity is well and snuffed out, but yeah, this is the thing. Back to the movie, again, the critics discover the man who vanished in the 1980s. It turns out he met Malachite and became a disciple of his, assuming it all just to be a D&D thing he was doing, but slowly learned that he wasn't joking and was completely evil. Upon discovering that the Channel Awesome people were the ones who took on the quest, he decides they're unworthy and tries to kill them. In the end, they discover the gauntlet was buried exactly where they started the journey. The map took them in a complete circle. There they do battle with the original creator and his friends for the gauntlet, only for Malachite to show up and beat everyone's asses. Also, he's a hypocrite. Not gonna lie, this part's actually kinda clever.
Hello? Oh, hey, what's up? Uh-huh. No. No, put a little milk in there, okay? Yeah. No, that's a latte. That's a latte. Yeah.
The only one who can defeat the main villain is the guy by the name of Mati. I legit have no clue who the fuck this dude is. He showed up before in Doug's videos as a parody of one of the characters from Captain Planet, the Indian kid, the one who had heart, and for some reason he just keeps showing up in these movies. He tries to give Doug a speech in Kickassia about not being a tyrant and fails, and in this he just sort of becomes a recurring joke character. Nobody likes him and they think he's annoying, so they send him out on constant dummy missions to keep him busy. But by the end he figures the whole thing out and essentially gives a massive fuck you to everyone, including the main bad guy. Yet it turns out the Captain Planet ring he has is the ring the alchemist forged thousands of years prior. With his new power, Mati defeats Malachite, putting an end to his reign of terror, but unfortunately, he's fatally wounded in the process, dying in the arms of Nostalgia Critic. Happy to know he could truly help his friends at least once before he died. The critics cremate Mati, putting his body in a can of Quaker Oats and sending him into space. They try to move on, but Critic in particular is haunted by his death, still reeling from it months later. Lankara jokingly suggests fighting the Necronomicon to bring him back, and the setup for the sequel is made. So there you go, that's Suburban Knights. It's just as laughably incompetent as Kickassia, but in its own way, actually had more potential. It even tries to have some emotional beats of all things, mainly with the death of Mati. It actually tries to make this a tragic death scene, out of place quips aside. It never goes past a surface level and keeps it firmly in the comedy, but still the tonal shift is there, and To Boldly Flee will only double down and try to have full-blown drama scenes. You guys have no idea what's coming for you, it's waiting in the dark. Watching. I can feel its ice. Still, Suburban Knights is equally as incompetent as any other Channel Awesome production, but at least it has more of a scale. You're not just going from Molossia to the critics' various bedrooms to a hotel, and that's all you get. This actually tries to give you more outdoor scenes. They're running around town in their costumes, even pokes fun at the fact that they're all dressed up and trying to fight these evil wizards while everyone else thinks they're just a bunch of fat idiots. Yeah, it's something, at least. But it's also a bit more of an investment. Kickassia was only around 90 minutes. Makes sense, short low comedy. Suburban Knights is over 2 hours long. 2 hours and 9 minutes to be exact. A full 30 more minutes. This movie is only 3 minutes shorter than the original Die Hard. It's 12 minutes longer than Lethal Weapon. How much you can stomach bad comedy, camera work, and special effects is really important, because you might tap out if you try to watch through this. All in all, this movie is a fucking mess, but there's something there, buried under all the jokes and the autism. I still can't recommend this one unless you're really interested in Channel Awesome lore and need another notch on your belt. But if you're an outsider to all this, stay far fucking away, you will regret it. It wasn't even made for you, it was made for fans of these guys. So you're kind of just jumping into the middle of an in-joke, not really having any clue what's going on, and that cannot possibly be fun. But for now, I'm calling it. I'm exhausted, and we have to prepare for the next stop on our journey. To Boldly Flee. It's going to be a video. That's for sure. Until next time, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys.
Wow, that's a lot of peas.
Yeah.
And I'm just full of them.
Right.
I am totally full of penis.
You got it?
So, what are you gonna do?
I will eat your penis!
Hey, loser. Do you want a shirt? Do you want a t-shirt? I have shirts now. Look in the description for a link to a t-shirt you can buy. If you don't buy the t-shirt, I'll kill your family. If you don't buy the t-shirt, I'll poison your dog. If you don't buy the t-shirt, you're gonna be the only person in town that does not have a t-shirt. Everyone's gonna look at you funny. There's gonna be social consequences to not having one of these t-shirts. I'm now making express threats of violence against you if you do not buy my t-shirt. I will call the police, tell them how you're not buying my shirt. They're gonna plant crack in your house, and they're gonna arrest you and then beat you up in a jail cell. Buy my shirt.